Hello Internet, in this video we are going to be looking at Bezier curves. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Specifically we're going to be looking at 3-point Bezier curves. If I'm saying that wrong, I am going to feel really silly at the end of this. So, the way this works is you get 3 points, usually in some sort of triangular fashion. It doesn't really make much sense if it's a line. And so the way this works is you have those 3 points. You draw a line between the first two and a line between the second and the third. And then the way it works is, say you have 0.5. What you do is find halfway between them, 0.5 between them, between both lines. So you find halfway in between the first line and halfway in between the second line. Then you draw a line between those 2 points, and then you'd find a halfway point between that one. Halfway is kind of a bad example because you're kind of choosing the middle. But the way this works is as you progress along the curve, you move further and further towards that third point, towards that last point. And then it kind of pulls it towards the second one and then slopes it back down. So we're going to be making that using a line renderer, I think. Don't know how this is going to work. I have read like 15 minutes on this, and I think I understand it. We're going to find out, though. So the way this is going to work is I'm going to create 3 transforms, one to track each point, and then we're also going to track our line render and just render our lines. So we're going to need a lot of debug information just so I can kind of so I can visualize what's going on here, and also so you guys kind of get a better idea what's actually happening. So let's do like a transform 0.1, transform of 0.2, and a transform of 0.3. So there we go. There's our 3 points. I started at 1, which obviously means I'm a terrible computer scientist, but there you go. So we have our 3 transforms here. We also need our line renderer. So one of the reasons we're using transforms here instead of just the positions is if we use transforms, we can track objects, and as those objects change, that reference updates with it. So we don't run into any issues that way. So we're going to end up wanting to connect that to our fun little line renderer here. I'm just using a sprite, the default like sprite shader with some color so we can kind of see what's going on. So ideally it will be red, fully red at the start and fully orange at the end. That's sort of what we're going for. That's why it's the color as it is. So to get this working, we are going to need 3 points. Let's do 0.1, 0.2, and 0.3. I guess that makes sense. I don't know. Names are not my strong point. I don't think they're anybody's strong point. Names are hard. So we're going to attach those here and just kind of match them up. And then let's attach our line renderer as well. That should be everything that we need. And now we just need to actually render this. So what I'm going to do, is this a good idea? Sure. Let's add a void on draw gizmos. And so the idea here is we are going to draw the first line as green, I guess. Sure. So let's set the color here to color.green, and then just gizmos.line. And we're just going to connect 0.1, the position of that, to the position of 0.2. And then for 0.3, or for the next line, we're going to be connecting the other 2 points. So let's use a different color for that. Let's say like cyan. And that should kind of give us a good close colors, but they're clearly different. And so this is going to be from 2 to 3. Order matters here. It's a line from 2 to 3, not from 3 to 2. And the reason that matters is it's going to change the direction of the vector. that connects them. So we want to move along that line in a specific direction. And if we move in the wrong direction, what's going to end up happening is we're going to be connecting from point 1 to point 2 instead of point 1 to point 3. That's the difference that we're going to get, I believe. We could probably play around with that a little bit, but yeah. And then now that we have these two, I should actually test that quick. So we've got point 1 sitting there. Point 2, I can drag you up here. And let's move you. Oh, come on. I can move it over, I guess. My computer is not in the best shape right now, unfortunately. There we go. It was just compiling, because compiling takes that long. All right. So the first line, green from 1 to 2, and then we have blue from 2 to 3. That's what we want. And so now what we need is another line. We're going to do a red line this time. And we're going to need 2 other additional points. We need is this a good idea? Yeah, this will work. So let's do gizmos, draw line, point. Let's do, actually we should be able to lerp between these two. That should get us what we need here. So I am going to do point 1 dot position and point 2 dot position. And we're going to have some ratio. That's not what I want. There we go. We're going to have some ratio there. Don't worry about where that is or what that is or how that is or whatever. We'll get there. And I'm going to kind of make it all fancy, but we'll see. Again, this is just for debugging so we can kind of see what's going on a little bit. I could draw it, I guess. But if we actually get it down in code, we can manipulate it a lot easier than if it's written on a whiteboard or something. So there's our second point. It's going to be another lerp, but between points 2 and 3. And then we're connecting them with the same ratio. So it should just shift it along those lines in the same fashion. And so we're going to start by having that ratio equal to, let's say, 0.25. That's totally arbitrary. It's not, we should see it go from like here to here. That's sort of what I would expect. But that's not really the point of this. I'm going to end up sticking this in a for loop, and we're going to actually get it to do like a cool archy thing, hopefully. And that should kind of give us an estimate, I'm hoping, of our curve. So this is our, I guess, approximation for one of those tangents. So like 0.25 across this line is going to be a point on our curve. And so what I'm going to do is add an integer a vertex count. Sure. And we'll set that equal to, say, 12. And so this is going to represent the number of vertices in our curve. So we're going to be generating a line, obviously. And we need to know how many vertices to actually put in that line to make this whole thing work. And so that's where that's coming from. So this ratio, we don't care about anymore. Well, we care about it, but we need to change it. And so what I'm going to do is create a float that we can say starts at 0. Is 0 a good starting point? It may not be. Let's do 0.5 divided by the vertex count. Sure. And so the reason I'm doing that is it's like halfway between two vertices. And so that way it doesn't line up, the initial line doesn't just cover up the first one. And we get additional detail without just wasting time. And so then we are going to say, well, the ratio is less than 1. And then let's do ratio plus equals 0 or 1.0f. We need to make this a floating point, otherwise it's going to be integer division, and 1 divided by 16 or whatever is just 0. So we're going to actually need something like that. It's the same thing that we were doing previously. All right, there we go. So hopefully this is going to get us a curve over this. So we should see a number of these red lines here. Come on. Sorry, I've never tried this before, but these have been something I really wanted to get working. So I'm kind of excited to see if yes, awesome. Okay, so this is sort of what we're looking for. We can kind of manipulate this whole thing, and you can see it all kind of stretches with us, and our curve gets kind of manipulated. You can kind of see it coming together here. This whole underneath thing is sort of the curve we're trying to capture. At least I believe that should be close to it, because these should capture the tangents. So what's eventually going to happen is we are going to capture points along this line, along this outer arc, and that's going to be our curve. So we could render those here. Actually, is that a good idea? It's not really needed. So instead, let's stick execute in edit mode on here. This way our line render will update in the editor. Instead of just waiting for play mode, which is way harder to actually judge. So now that we have that, we need to actually go and say our line render dot points. Oh shoot. Okay. We did this last time too, and it was named something really weird. And I don't remember what it was. But they kept renaming their vertices, what those positions were. And now I get lost every time I use this. None of those are correct. I guess we're going to do set positions. But this isn't going to update the number of lines, so this is going to be wrong. So let's do, we need to generate each of these points on our vertex. So just for demonstration purposes, we're going to do that ratio we had again. I think that makes the most sense. And so we're going to start at 0 this time and say while our ratio is less than 0, less than or equal to, so we'll go from 0 to 1 inclusive. So hopefully, assuming no floating point errors, which there will be, we should get however many vertices in plus 1. So that plus 1 is important because what it ends up meaning is that we capture that end point. We capture number 3, that point 3, as part of our line instead of somewhere before it. So this gizmo that we're drawing here, that works, but all it does is get point 1 or tangent line vertex 1 and tangent line vertex 2. It does not get us our actual position. all this does is create a tangent that would be on our line. We need to actually take that and calculate a specific point on that tangent that we can use in our calculation. So now that we have both of those, we need to do another lerp, which I know there's a lot of them. That's pretty much the entire thing. So let's just call it the point, or just the Bezier point equals a vector3 dot lerp of our tangent 1, our tangent 2, and our ratio. So we're finding, again, the ratio point between those. So if we're at 0, it'll be right at the point tangent line vertex 1. If it's at 1, it'll be on the other side of the line. If it's 0.5, it'll be in the middle, and so forth. So this just kind of skews it that way, and kind of gives each of those two different lines that we're kind of interpolating between different weights as you go along it. And now that we have that, let's create, I think, just a list. So point list, sure, equals a new list of vector 3s. And we're just going to drop these calculated points into our point list. That's not how you do that. There we go. Bezier point. Awesome. So we just drop our point onto that list. And then finally, when we're setting the positions, we want to do point list dot to array. And that gets us an array of it that we can set. And I don't think that's going to work because I believe we need to set the position count. There we go. And that's going to be the point list dot count. So that, hopefully, is going to actually update our line. So it should follow this arc. Hopefully. It's going to be really thick because it's a 1 meter thing and we're working in pretty confined quarters right now. But you should kind of get the idea. My cough has not gone away. It is very annoying. Yay! Alright, so it works. You can't really tell because it's so thick. But it does appear to be working. I am going to shrink the size of this because that is kind of ridiculous. So 0.1, and now we get that nice little curve. You can see red, like we expected, is at the end. And this one goes all the way to the edge there, which is perfect. So it's encompassing everything inside of our curves. It goes from point 1 to point 2. And we can change things in real time, and it adopts. So it kind of figures out how to do it. So we have 3D Bezier curves with some debugging stuff and all that cool stuff. And we can kind of do whatever we want with it. So, I don't know, that's pretty cool. Neat. So, I think I'll leave that here. That's pretty much all I wanted to do. I'll probably play around with this for a while. But I thought this was really cool because it's simple. It's just interpolation after interpolation after interpolation, but it looks really cool. And that's always nice. I like things that look cool. And we can change the quality, and both our updated gizmo and the line look better. Or I think we could drop this down to 1 and we just get a straight line. Which that's nice. And then we can kind of play around with this and get more and more accurate. And then as we increase it all the way up, that's pretty high, but 40 vertices-ish. We get almost perfect lines. And it's 3D, so I don't know, you can do whatever. So I'll leave this here because I'm gonna just freak out over this. But yeah, that's it for this video. If there's any suggestions you guys have, or you just want to hang out and chat, we've got a Discord chat, and that's a link in the description, or it's on the homepage for this channel, so you guys can check that out. If there's anything else you guys want to see, any feedback you have for me, I'd love to hear it. So drop those in the comments as well, and I will hopefully get to them when I can. My time has been on and off. It kind of varies depending on work and a few other things, but I don't know. We'll do it. We'll do what we can, and if we can't, then we'll make it up. So yeah, that's it. Hope you guys liked it. But until next time, see you, internet.